Institute for Policy Studies. We continue the EBS Global Lecture Series with Ambassador Rolf Maffei of the Federal Republic of Germany. Welcome, Ambassador.
시청자 여러분, 안녕하십니까? 반갑습니다. I'm very pleased to present to a young Korean audience Germany, my home country, today. I thought that this country is quite well known here, but last summer, students from German High School International here in Seoul, went out in Myeongdong with a map. And they showed young Koreans, 16, 18 years old, where is Germany? They pointed to Switzerland, to Poland, some even to the UK, and only 20% to Germany. So I think there is an urgent need to introduce our country to you, and I hope you will enjoy it. So let's start. This picture, as you may imagine, is the picture taken after we won the soccer championship. That's modern Germany. And the music you heard is Beethoven, the Ninth Symphony, Ode to the Joy, and that is traditional Germany. So, after all, where is this country? Germany in the middle of Europe. You see it in green here. And if you look at Germany, it is not just one state, but is composed of many single states, which are like provinces here in Korea. But in Germany, these states have much more power and much more importance than the governors have here. But if you talk about Germany, you cannot only talk about my country. If you talk about my country, then you have to talk about Germany and about the European Union. And this picture shows how Germany is located in the European Union. So all these countries are members of the European Union. As a German, I have a German ID, but I have a European passport. I'm a German citizen, but I'm also a European citizen. So for us, for our identity, there are two identities, a national one and a European one. And this is very important to understand mentality, politics, in Germany. Just to give you some bigger places in Germany that you may know or not know, of course Berlin here has always been the capital, but now it's also the seat of the government. This place here, Bonn, was the capital until unification. Munich, many of you may know, Dresden, that was visited recently by the president, and most Koreans know Frankfurt. This is where the biggest airport is located. Of course, this place is most important. That's Bruchsal, the place where I am born. We just heard already some music. If I ask Koreans like I did a couple of weeks ago when we had high school journalists in our residence, I asked them, what do we associate with Germany? Well, they said it's cars, it's beer, it's soccer, it's music, it's Nazi time. So the last one I didn't like very much, but music certainly is one I like. So my question is, on the left side, who is this musician? That's Beethoven, right. And on the right side, we will hear the music, perhaps you know. Anyone else? Well, this guy on the right side is Johann Sebastian Bach, the person who composed most of all composers and who may be even more famous, generally speaking, than Beethoven. But if we look at Germany for other figures, then Germany is always said to be the country of thinkers and poets. And here you have on the left side Goethe and Schiller. Goethe was quite well known here for The Sorrow of the Young Werther, which some of you may have read, and which is the reason why Lotte company is called Lotte, since the lady he was so interested in was Charlotte von Weimar. And then there are many German philosophers, and I mention here two on the right side, which is Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. They are the two that were the philosophers of communism and socialism, which is not very much en vogue anymore, but still which is part of a German philosophy history. And these two people are leading Germany nowadays. On the left side, it is our federal president Gauck, and on the right side, it is Chancellor Angela Merkel. Now Gauck, he used to be a priest, and Mrs. Merkel, she is the daughter of a pastor. And they are both from East Germany. So that these two people are leading Germany today means that we have really achieved unification in political terms. Two East Germans are leading the country. If you look at Germany at landscapes, you have on the northern side, you have the Baltic Sea and the North Sea, and you have long coasts. They are not too sunny, they are sometimes too cold in summer, but still it's very nice to make holidays there. And on the other end, in the southern end of Germany, you have the Alps, with Zugspitze as the highest mountain. And in between it is a bit like Korea, so it's like many of 500 or 800 or 300 meters hills, but they are all very much inhabited. If you look at Germany, again, in seasons, it's quite similar to Korea. We have 4 seasons. We have winter like here, perhaps not as cold. We have summer like here, but not as hot, and not as humid. So what is very similar is autumn and spring. So the weather we have here today is very similar to the weather we are having in Germany these days. Germany's favorite places, I wonder whether some of you have already visited our country or have seen these places. Here we have the Brandenburg Gate, which is very well known given the fall of the Berlin Wall. Here we have the Frauenkirche in Dresden, which has been rebuilt completely from donations from people. And then we have the new German parliament, the Reichstag, the Cathedral of Cologne, or the Neuschwanstein Castle, which is one of the most famous places for tourists. So although we had 2 world wars, Germany has really done a lot to rebuild its country and to make it attractive for tourists and for its own people. Looking to German history, I recently attended the ceremony on the 3rd of October, which was for Korea's foundation more than 4,000 years ago. Now, for me as German, this is very impressive, since Germany, compared to Korea, is a very young country. And this picture is from 1871, so this is only roughly 140 years ago, which was the coronation of the German emperor and the start of Germany as a nation-state. So Germany as a nation-state is only roughly 140 years old. We had an old German empire it started in 1960. That was in Korea, the end of the Shilla period and the beginning of Koryo period. At that time, we already had the German Empire, but it was not really an empire. There was an emperor, but the country itself, it was a loose association of kingdoms and principalities and dukedoms that did not really work together, but all of them were very independent. So only 140 years ago, Germany was really founded as a nation state. And already 12 years afterwards, Germany and Korea have established diplomatic relations. Actually, Germany was one of the first countries to establish diplomatic relations with Korea. Germany was a young nation state, and that had some unfortunate consequences. Since we are in the middle of Europe, unfortunately, Germany triggered two world wars. The First World War from 1914 to 18, and the Second World War from 1930 to 1945. The Second World War, which you know at the end, led to the division of Korea and led to the division of Germany. So again, if we compare our two countries, 1948, Republic of Korea and DPRK were founded, and 1 year later, the Federal Republic of Germany and the German Diplomatic Republic were founded. 40 years later, the Berlin Wall came down, and in 1990, Germany was unified again. So for Germany, division of the country in the end was over after 40 years. Now, again, if you look at Germany and Korea, the key date may be 1999, since this is when Germany and Korea became both founding members of the G20, the group of the most important economies. If you look more closely into German recent history, then this is very similar to what Korea may have looked like after the Korean War. This is Germany after the Second World War. Everything was in ruins. This is like Berlin, Dresden, Mannheim. Everything was in ruins, and within roughly 25 years, the country built itself from ruins to a modern economy. That is what is called the miracle of the Rhine. Germany was separated into 4 different areas: British, French, American, and Russian zone. And the Russian sector was then separated from the other 2, and these 3 became the Federal Republic. Now, one key for the success in our history after the Second World War was reconciliation with our neighbors. And this is showing Konrad Adenauer and Charles de Gaulle. The most important reconciliation was with France. And Germany and France, until today, are really key in building Europe together. The reconciliation among them was the key for building the European Union. 1961, West Germany seemed to be too successful, so many East Germans wanted to go west, and this is why East Germany decided to build the Berlin Wall. So only then Germany was really separated. So in reality, it was only from 61 to 89 that you really couldn't move easily from one side to another. And after 18 years, 8 to 28 years, actually, the wall came down. The policy, the East policy, the détente policy of the federal government, together with Western countries, led to much more liberty in Eastern Europe, including in the GDR. And in the end, people in the GDR said, we are the people. They demonstrated in the streets. That was 25 years ago. And at one point, there were so many people, tens of thousands of people, demonstrating every week, that the pressure was so high that the East German government decided to open the wall. And this is what you see in these pictures. Now, after opening the wall, the unified Germany developed very fast. And today, we can say that unification is almost completed, and Germany has become a very modern and advanced country in its entirety. If you look, this is the new parliament, or the roof of the new parliament. You see science as one of the key elements, culture, technology. In all areas, basically, Germany has developed very well since unification. And again, for me and for my children, what really counts is the fact that we are Germany in the European Union. So if I want to travel to France, if I want to travel to Spain, if I want to travel to Austria, to all the countries which you see here in in this kind of color. They are all part of the Schengen, so you don't need a passport. You don't need to carry a passport. There are no borders between these countries anymore, which is a very pleasant thing for us. And then secondly, I still know what the German mark was. My children don't. They just know the euro. So most countries of the European Union share one currency today, which is the euro, and which is a very positive development, albeit there is some difficulty in the Eurozone as a whole economically. Again, Germany today is, first of all, technologically a highly advanced country. If you look at Germany, we have 82 million inhabitants. I think South Korea has 50, North Korea 25. So a unified Korea would roughly be the same size like unified Germany. If you look at the size of the country, Germany is roughly 3 times the size of Korea. But there are many similarities, and this way that Germany has taken as a country of modern technology and of modern economy is very much the kind of path which leads from the miracle of the Rhine to the miracle at the Han. So Germany as land of ideas, which is what the Chancellor is promoting here, Germany as a center of research and technology, Germany as the land of Albert Einstein, or Germany as a land of Mr. Hell, who won the Nobel Prize in chemistry last week. This very much represents our modern country. And if you look into technology and science, in chemistry, in physics, in medicine, Germany over the years won roughly in each of these categories 25 Nobel Prizes, which indicates the strength of our country in terms of science and technology. There are some unusual decisions which Germany has taken in recent years. And one is that in our country there's one very strong ecologist movement, very strong support for measures to protect the environment. And one of the consequences of this was what we call energy revolution or energy transition. And that means that Germany has decided to cut off nuclear energy by 2022 and to replace energies by electric energy by renewables. We already now have 30% of our energy produced by renewables, and by the year 2050 we believe that it will be able to produce 80% of our electrical energy by renewables. And this turned out to be really a growth engine, both for the economy but also on the job markets. Many, many jobs have been created in this area of renewable energies, be it wind energy, be it solar energy or geothermal, and in all the research related to it. And especially in the area of energy efficiency, hundreds of companies have been started, which are, many of them today, world market leader in specific technologies to save energy. Now, I already mentioned some elements about Germany and Korea, and which is that we already have 130 years of relationship. But also we have the same national day, which is the 3rd of October. But there are more similarities. One is, for example, that we do not have natural resources. So your resources, just as our resources, are the brains of our people. Are your brains, are our brains. Our future is the future of our young generation and the quality of their education, just as is the case here in Korea. Our economy heavily depends on exports. Actually, more than 50% of our GDP are going to exports. That is even higher than in the case of Korea. And behind China, we are number 2 vice champion in exports, which is a one-sided business. So just as Korea, we have to try to strengthen the local market or to strengthen the European market and to have more imports coming into Germany. If you go into German-Korean history, you find some quite remarkable figures. One of them is Paul Georg von Möllendorf, who already in the 1880s was one of the first advisors to the new Korean government and to King Gochong. So he established like custom services in Korea, and he also was the first Korean vice foreign minister who negotiated treaties with other countries. He spoke fluently Korean, and he even dressed himself in Korean. There are some other people, like one lady, Mrs. Sontag. She established the first Western hotel in Korea, and the first previous national anthem, Korean anthem, was written by a German composer, Mr. Eckert, who himself is still buried here in the National Cemetery. Korean-German relations were very important in the 1960s when, during the time of Park Chung-hee, Germany gave credits to Korea, 2 important credits, and helped a lot in order to build the country in the 1960s. And on the other hand, Korea, your country, was sending almost 20,000 miners and nurses to Germany that helped in areas where the Germans needed workforce. So many students who were not really miners, many students went to Germany and worked there, had a very hard job to work in German mines. And also many nurses came to Germany. And they were very helpful both for us in promoting our economic development, but also for Korea by sending back the money home and thereby getting foreign currency, which was desperately needed in Korea at the time. German-Korean relations today are first of all very friendly, and if we look at the last 15 years, we see both in the political context with G20 membership, but also in the economic sector, where the trade between two countries is increasing every year, has doubled, more than doubled within the last 12 years. Investment of Korean companies like LG, Samsung, Hanwha in Germany, but also investment by many German companies here in Korea. And here you see just some of them. All of you have certainly seen German cars on the streets, but you also have companies like Bosch, like Merck. In every display that you have back home or you're watching at the moment, there is Merck inside in terms of liquid crystals. You have Siemens, which has been a very important company, BASF, Bayer, and others. So German industry is one of the biggest investors here in Korea, and German companies are very happy to be here and to work with your countries and with your fellow countrymen. What is important for us now is to promote exchange between young people, promote exchange between high school students, promote exchange at university level, mostly at master students level, and to promote research cooperation between our two countries. That is the real challenge. Partnership for excellence. This is what Korea and Germany should do in the future. And so we are investing heavily, and every year organizing a big conference here in Korea about natural sciences, about engineering this year, in order to bring more German engineers here and more Koreans to Germany to study engineering. Generally speaking, Germany has developed into a very open country. And if you look worldwide, we are now number 3 in terms of foreign students. So 300,000 foreign students are studying in Germany, which is roughly 11% of all our students. From Korea, from your country, we have roughly 5,000 students, which is a very good figure. There's only one point which is not really satisfactory. We need more engineers and more people in natural sciences to come for their master studies and then go back to their country. And also we need more Korean Germans to come here. The reason is more and more companies are coming here and doing research here in Korea, and they need educated people that know both cultures. And also more and more research between German research institutions and Koreans are taking place. So we need people that know both cultures, and we hope that more will come in both directions. German culture, this is what all of you know, of course. This is what people associate with Germany. It's beer, it's the October Festival, and this is the the map of breweries in Germany, which is quite extensive. But I should tell you, there is more about partying in Germany. And this is Carnival. There is not only Carnival in Rio, there is also Carnival in Cologne, the Rhine Carnival. And all along in February, March, for 3 to 4 weeks, there is like a fourth season. And this fourth season is the Carnival season, where at least for 1 week or 2 weeks, the rules are not applied as usual. And this is the Carnival parade, which is taking place in Cologne. And there is one special day for women. And that day, the women are only allowed to ask the men to dance with them, and the women are always going out on their own. So this is what we call Weiberfasching, which is the women carnival. And that is now Berlin, the capital, and the capital where the mayor said a couple of years ago, we are poor, but we are sexy. And Berlin has become the mecca of young people, for young people in Europe, but actually from all over the world. Many Americans are coming to Berlin, are living there in Berlin right now. And this is just one of the many pictures that you could do there. There was a big parade called Love Parade, which was held annually, which is not done anymore. There is a special carnival, which is called Carnival of Cultures. And if I ask my sons, to go out in Berlin is like going out in Hongdae or in Itaewon here tonight. So they go out at 11 usually, come back at 5, go to many clubs, have a very interesting time. And so for young people, this is a very exciting place. Just like Seoul, by the way. It's not only cars, it's not only chemistry, it's not only machines. Today, textiles and fashion has become a major product of German culture. Here you see the Fashion Week from Berlin, which is new design. Usually this is where much of the design starts. Then if the designers really want to earn a lot of money, they tend to go somewhere else. But the startup scene for design and for modern fashion is in Berlin. And someone has discovered that already, and that is the mayor of Seoul. Since there are 2 big fairs. One is Fashion Week and one is Bread and Butter. And the Bread and Butter Week that has been held until now in Berlin for young designers, that has now come to Seoul. And so from next year or in 2 years' time, then Seoul will each year hold the Bread and Butter Week. If we look at music, I'm surprised there are quite a number of German bands and DJs present here. Also, they don't have the same prominence like your K-pop stars, but Rammstein has been here a number of times. Paul van Dyk, he's a famous DJ. He is here right now, or these several times these days. David Garrett has been here recently. And if you look into the other direction, perhaps the most famous Korean artist, or best known in Germany, is Baek Nam-joon, who is the first real video artist. And actually he lived for almost 20 years at the Art University in Düsseldorf. And he worked very closely with one of the most famous modern German artists, Joseph Beuys. If we look at sports, then soccer, there's a close relation. I should have actually brought this soccer ball, which is signed by Franz Beckenbauer and Cha Bum-gun, which I have at home. But I should mention that Cha Bum-gun, he is really still today quite famous as a player in Germany. And he has now his successor with Song Heung-min, who is playing for a German, for Bayer Leverkusen, and who is doing a great job. Now, apparently, the Koreans you have seen how Germany did the soccer championship, which was a kind of typical German exercise, since it started in 2001, preparation for the soccer championship in 2014. So the whole strategy was a strategy over 13 years to build up a new group, to bring in new people, and to have a new type of training, computer-based training, and so on and so forth. And in that sense, it's a typical way of how the Germans are acting. And of course, then somehow Korea must have thought we should have a German coach. So the new soccer coach here is a German, Uli Stielecke, who is quite well known. He also trained Real Madrid. One of the elements which are really posing a challenge for us is demography. That's very similar to Korea. We have difficulty to maintain the level of our population, which is 82 million people, since we only have an average birth rate of 1.32, 1.34, which is too low. Now we are taking a lot of efforts in terms of family policy, but in reality we are not capable of really coping with this demographic challenge. And so what happened in the last years is that we have started a more active migration policy. And now every year there are 1.2 million people migrating into Germany. And last year we had 500,000 people more coming into Germany than leaving Germany. And with such a situation, it was the first year after almost 10 years of losing population that Germany has stabilized. And Germany is now in a situation, if we maintain this kind of policy, to look also, as far as this challenge is concerned, into a bright future. So I should like to invite all of you to come to Germany as a tourist or to come to Germany as a student, especially in master courses. It is an exciting country, it's a very modern country, and Koreans are very much welcome in our country. Thank you very much for your attention. 경청해 주셔서 대단히 감사합니다. 질문 있어요? Don't be afraid.
What's very impressive to Koreans is Germany welcomed by the rest of the Europe after the end of the Second World War. Could you say something about the effort made by German politicians and common people to reconcile their ties with other European countries to be welcomed again, past the unfortunate past, and move forward with the rest of the Euro toward a common future?
Thank you very much. It's interesting to compare the situation at the end of World War I and the end of World War II. Since at the end of World War I, everybody said that Germany was responsible for this war, and they put a very heavy burden on Germany in terms of reparations. And that was a very heavy burden for the Republic at that time. A burden which one of the reasons why Germany didn't develop well, and one of the reasons why the second attempt to build the nation went wrong again. Now this was not the same after the Second World War. Germany was separated into four parts, four sectors, as I mentioned. But the Allies behaved quite friendly towards Germany. And the Americans, for example, they gave a lot of help to Germany to rebuild the country. And the Germans, on one hand, they knew we have started the war. It were our politicians that started the war. That was crystal clear. And therefore, it was very easy for us to apologize, since there was no doubt whatsoever. And the Germans were deeply shocked about the cruelty, about all the crimes that have been committed during the Nazi time, as far as the Jewish Holocaust, the Jewish people are concerned. So people were deeply shocked, and there was no question about responsibility and who caused what whatsoever. Then, when the nation started being rebuilt, if you look into history, there have always been wars between Germany and France. Like early 19th century, Napoleon fought a war against Germany, which was actually one of the reasons why Germany started to be united. Then later, 3 times, Germany started a war against France. So there were two very responsible politicians on the German and on the French side who took leadership, and they said, we do not want to repeat this again. And that was Adenauer and de Gaulle. So there was a very strong leadership, but there was also a very strong conviction by German people that they want to become friends with French people, and vice versa. But of course we depended very much on the fact that the French people, or later the Polish people, were willing to forgive us. It always took two. So they decided, okay, we are ready to become friends with the Germans. Also, they have attacked us 3 times within 100 years. Only we don't want them to have this kind of armaments industry and steel and coal industry at their national disposal. And this is how the European Union started. That the German coal and steel industry was kind of internationalized in the European Community for Coal and Steel, which was then joined by others. And it was under European administration. And from this nucleus, since this nucleus worked, then there was development into the European Economic Community and the European Union. If you look at Poland later in 1971, 1972, of course, Germany has behaved very badly. Not only we attacked Poland in 1939, but also the way how we occupied the country and how we treated Polish people was horrible. But the first step in this case, actually, for real reconciliation, came from the Polish bishops. The Polish bishops were the ones that wrote a letter already in the 1960s to the German bishops and say, we ask for your forgiveness and we are willing to forgive. And then there was a very long period where Germany helped Poland, where Poland was in a difficult situation. And so slowly but steadily, there's this famous gesture by Willy Brandt asking for forgiveness. Slowly but steadily, over actually 2-3 decades, the relationship between our people was rebuilt, and the confidence that has been built is existing as it now. Today, in terms of marriages among 2 countries, it's now, of new marriages, number 1 is German-Polish, and then number 2 is German-French. And this, of course, is an ideal world if you are German. It means that your people are really accepted. But again, I think for us it was so obvious that we were the wrongdoer. But for the Polish, it was a much bigger step to accept that the Germans will not behave in the future the same way they have done. And so the Polish were kind enough to accept our gestures and to cooperate with us, which was a very long way for them to go. So it seems it is our history where there were 2 world wars, which really made people learn. And the success of Germany today, which is the success also of European integration, is very much the experience of the 80 years of history before the foundation of our country.
I would like to ask a question about German reunification. I know that the situations are different between Korea and Germany at the time, before the time of reunification, and there were at least some level of communication between the East Germany and West Germany. But how would you analyze the situations on the Korean Peninsula, and how do you think South Korea can better prepare for reunification? Like, what can South Korea do better to promote the reunification?
Well, I'm looking at this from the perspective, of course, of the German experience. And the German experience, in essence, means that it took 20 years. From 1969, this is when Ostpolitik from Willy Brandt and when the policy of détente between West and East started. It took 20 years until finally the wall came down. So it means it's really a long-term strategy, a bipartisan long-term strategy, which is needed to change such difficult situations. Again, if I look how the situation was changed, it was done in a broader European context, and that may be more difficult here in Asia. It was done in a more broader European context, since the whole process of détente was not only one between West and East Germany, it was one between Western Europe and Eastern Europe. It even included détente between the United States and the Soviet Union. And in that context, we were able to build a common understanding between East and West on human rights, on freedom of press, on democracy, a kind of understanding which led to the Helsinki Final Act, which is the document that all those that protested and that wanted reform in Eastern Europe were able to argue for. If you look at the German context, then there was a steady process of increasing cooperation between the two countries, including by financial assistance from West Germany to East Germany, albeit never any assistance without, let's say, also receiving something from the East. But this kind of cooperation, of people-to-people contact, of economic cooperation over an extended period of 20 years, this led to a situation where the fence became more and more holes, where the East Germans could learn more and more about West Germany, and where interaction between the two countries was such that the East Germans really knew what is going on in West Germany, and they could take a decision, since they would have an idea about what really West Germany is. Now, if you look into Korea, on one hand, the overall, let's say, geopolitical situation may not be the same kind of détente as we had it between East and West. But on the other hand, Germany, even during unification, was still not a fully sovereign country. We still needed the agreement of Soviet Union, US, UK, and France for German unification. And we had always to be afraid that Soviet Union might decide to forbid unification. In that sense, North Korea is, or Koreans are in a better situation, since North Korea is a fully sovereign and independent country. But the kind of policy, in my opinion, that President Park has been proposing with her Dresden speech, and the kind of idea to really rebuild ties between the two countries, slowly but steadily, from smaller to bigger project, and thereby increasing the contact between people, increasing the contact between economy. This is the way, the exchange, where people can come closer together, where young Korean, not South Koreans, where you can for the first time perhaps see North Korean people and vice versa. I understand that there is very little interest, since you have no chance to see what is really going on. You cannot feel that they may be your brothers. And when I am born close to the French-German border. So for me, East Germany was very far away. I had no relatives there, and unification, just like for many of you probably, was not really such an issue close to my heart. But one issue was close to my heart and to my friend's heart, and that was that we wanted liberty, freedom for all Germans. And we were very, very happy to see that the East Germans in 1989 finally regained their freedom. That they then decided for unification is, from today's perspective, a lucky story, a happy story. But if they had decided to remain a separate country, that would have been okay for us as well. What really was important was freedom. From today's perspective, I would say that it's right. German unification was tabak for our country. Well, thank you very much for your attention. I really enjoy working here in Korea, working with Koreans. And I feel all German visitors that are coming here to your country, and it's more and more visitors every year. 10 years ago it was 50,000. Now it's 100,000 Germans coming to your country. They are really fascinated. They are very positive about Korea. And from the Korean side, I know that there's a very high appreciation for Germany. So I would really hope that the kind of relation that we have seen between the elder generation, between your parents and my parents, will also become true for the young generation, that there will be a strong bond between you and young German people. It's a strong bond which we need, since, as I said, for you it's your brains, which is your capital. For us, it's our brains, that's our capital. So let's bring our brains together to build our future. Thank you very much.